It's Tuesday, February 1st, 2022. A lot to talk about today, ladies and gentlemen. And I want to start out with this. I was watching an interview last night with a retired GP motorcycle racer, Mick Doohan. Now, I've been a big fan of World Superbike, GP, and sports like that. UFC, I'm also a huge fan of UFC, but motorcycle racing and UFC are two of my favorite sports. They have been for many decades. And I was watching this interview with Mick Doohan, one of the greatest GP riders of all time, used to race for Honda. And he said something very, very interesting in this interview last night. He says, you need a healthy dose of fear to keep yourself safe. You need to know how to manage the fear. And I thought that made so much sense because what we are seeing today in these markets are people and investors with absolutely no fear. Again, you need a healthy dose of fear to keep yourself safe. People have no fear. They are living, believing there are no consequences to these markets, to these rigged markets. The Fed isn't going to raise rates, or the Fed will just raise rates minimally. The Fed is never going to let anything fail. What they don't understand is when the Fed loses control, and they will, these people are in big, big trouble. And I just thought that that made so much sense with where we're at today, as the Dow Jones was down earlier 150 points, closes up 290 points in the positive. So again, another miracle takes place. New York Fed trading desk buying everything right before the close today yet again. It's almost laughable, but it isn't, because people are watching these people on television in $3,000 suits. They're watching these economists and consultants come on these shows and tell them everything is fine. Keep buying the dips, keep buying real estate, keep inflating the bubbles. What could possibly go wrong? This is going to last forever. If we have a correction, it'll be mild and it will not last very long. The Fed will not let anything fail. You can trust us on that. That's what they're saying. And people are watching this in disbelief, where we see markets down hundreds of points, and it just rallies back at the end of the day like a miracle. And so people are really believing this and having no fear. And when you have no fear, people are doubling, tripling, quadrupling down in these markets, taking huge risk. And I do believe that they're going to pay the ultimate price. Another disappointing day in regards to macro data, with manufacturing growth slowing more than expected, inflation higher than expected in this morning's PMI and ISM data. But market up nearly 300 points with the negative news. Record inflation and zero growth, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we're witnessing. And markets continue to go up. What do you think about that? Do you think that this isn't rigged? Do you think that this isn't manipulated? We are witnessing one of the worst economies in the history of America, and the stock market is going up. And there's a few people out there making a lot of money at your expense. I was reading this article earlier today. LA Rams victory over San Francisco 49ers for Super Bowl berth scores 50 million viewers for Fox in NFL Battle of California. I read this and I think these are probably the most unprepared people on planet Earth. These are the people that have no fear. They're too busy playing video games, watching football, and have absolutely no fear of what's going on. Their pensions are heavily invested in these markets, their 401ks in these markets. It really makes you question the sanity of things that are happening right now, where we have people back supporting the NFL, watching games. Wow. Their Social Security is being robbed, their pensions being robbed, their standard of living is being robbed, their their dollar, their dollar being robbed right before their eyes, their purchasing power being robbed right before their very eyes, and 50 million people watching a football game. This is another bellwether of how much trouble we are in, ladies and gentlemen, because the majority of American people are absolutely zombies, sheep, absolutely unprepared. And they are going to pay the price here. 60% of this country does not have $1,000 saved up for an emergency. Let me repeat that. 60% of this country does not have $1,000 saved up for an emergency. Yet markets are up today and 50 million people watching a football game. It's sad that I think more people do care about a football game than their own futures, than the future of their economy, the future of their country, the future of their purchasing power, the futures of their retirement. It's like they don't even care. They are so conditioned and dumbed down not to worry, not to care. Let the banks worry about it. Let the Federal Reserve worry about it. Let the politicians worry about it. How has that gone so far? But people are going to wake up one day, and when they do, it is going to be too late. I don't sit here and tell you to live your life in fear, but you better be worried and you better be concerned about what is happening, because it is going to affect every one of us. CNBC today, after a huge year for growth, the U.S. economy is about to slam into a wall. Last year, the U.S. economy grew at its fastest pace since 1984, but that momentum isn't carrying into 2022. An inventory build fueled most of the second half of growth that put annualized GDP up 5.7% for the year. Now, for the first quarter of 2022, they're predicting that we may not see any gain at all and possibly show a loss in GDP for the first quarter of 2022. Without fiscal and monetary help, growth is in trouble. Consumers are no longer flush with cash. So how in the world now do we show positive GDP? How do we show GDP growth? What do we do? We're not manufacturing, we're not making anything. And 70% of this GDP is based on consumption. And if the consumer doesn't have money, free money, stimmies, benefit checks, child tax credits, how in the world are they going to go out and buy stuff when we're not making things? And the problem gets worse because also on CNBC, and most of you have probably already seen this, roughly 47 million people quit their jobs last year. All of this is uncharted territory, ladies and gentlemen. Now, please, somebody answer me. How in the world can the markets be going up? How can we have this real estate boom when 47 million people quit their jobs last year? Yes, some of them got new jobs, but we have over 10 million jobs available. And what type of jobs are out there? Mostly service sector, low wage, minimum wage, paying jobs with no benefits. Many don't even offer 40-hour work weeks any longer. How do we grow GDP when people are quitting jobs? Friday, we'll get the jobs report for January, and I think it's going to be very, very bad, but it won't even matter. The market will probably go up on Friday with a bad jobs report. So it doesn't even matter because the Fed is buying it all, ladies and gentlemen. The system is rigged. And a few people are making a lot of money, but again, they're making that money at the cost of this economy and at your benefit. You are paying for this. Every time you go to the grocery store, every time you pay rent, every time you go to the gas pump and you see that massive inflation, you're paying for the wealthy to be wealthier. There were 4.6 million more job openings than unemployed workers in December. Please comment down below. How in the world are people paying their bills? How are they putting gas in their cars? How are they paying rent? How are they paying mortgages? How are they paying taxes? How many people will be in trouble this year because they're not going to be able to pay taxes for 2021. How many people will not be able to afford to pay property taxes? And people's property taxes absolutely ballooning with the cost of real estate going up. You know, if you bought a house a few years back for $200,000 and now it's appraised at $500,000 and they reassess your property value now at $500,000, your property taxes have more than doubled. How are people going to continue to do this? Please comment down below. I have no idea. The hedge today, U.S. manufacturing weakens more in January. Job creation crashes as price paid spikes. January market U.S. manufacturing PMI fell from 57.7 in December to 55.5 at the final print of January, weakest print since October 2020. January ISM U.S. manufacturing fell from 58.8 to 57.6, weakest since November 2020. Look, this is all heading in the wrong direction. Markets continue to go up while everything else continues to go down, just like your standard of living, just like your wages, just like your savings account. It continues to go down. Output and new order growth slowed in January. The fact that we have sent almost all of our manufacturing and production offshore is one of the greatest crimes ever committed on the American people, in my opinion. But it doesn't matter. 50 million people watching a football game. It's really, really sad where people's priorities are. And this is why everything continues to erode, to decay. And this is why the average American standard of living is going to continue to falter, why your purchasing power will continue to decrease. We got big trouble, ladies and gentlemen. I wish I had really good news for you. I do not see the light at the end of the tunnel. I see more darkness at the end of the tunnel. We are heading down a tunnel of darkness. And while people are playing video games, while they're watching football games, this is literally speaking Latin to these people. They have no idea what I'm talking about. And I really fear what is in store for these people, because again, these will be the people knocking at your door for help, to protect them, to feed them, to give them some money. But these are the people too busy watching football games. These are the people hoping that this doesn't happen. These are the people naive and oblivious to the truth and to reality. All of you watching this video today know that something is very, very wrong. You know that we are on the cusp of something very, very big happening. It's going to take one little event, ladies and gentlemen, and our world is going to change. And there are two types of people out there: people who are prepared and people who are not prepared. And you need to make a very, very serious choice today on what type of person you are. Are you prepared or are you unprepared? Do you live in the real world or do you live in fantasy land? Is the future of your country, your finances, your standard of living more important than football and basketball and gambling? You know, we have so many people now gambling in these markets because of desperation and hope. They got so much free money, and the only way that they could acquire any type of wealth in their minds was to gamble in these markets. Look at now all these people who gambled in cryptos, completely decimated, completely wiped out, all these Robin Hooders wiped out. There are still people out there that will judge me for owning and buying gold. It's back over 1,800 today. Slow and steady wins the race, ladies and gentlemen. I will continue to buy gold. It is tested, and it has been tested over 5,000 years. I look at Ponzi schemes, and I look at this fairy dust that people hope and believe will make them multimillionaires. It doesn't work like that. It might work for a few people, but you can go to Vegas and you can gamble and maybe you'll win $1 million. There's always that hope, but people have just been so fooled and bamboozled that if they take, $500, they're going to be multimillionaires. If they just invested in this Ponzi scheme or that stock, they're gonna be multimillionaires. That's not investing, ladies and gentlemen. That is pure speculation, pure gambling. Slow and steady wins the race. This is a marathon, and this thing is going to be long. It's going to be drawn out. It's going to be excruciating, and you need to have the right assets, the right mindset, the right training, and really the right frame of mind for what we are entering, because we are entering uncharted water here, ladies and gentlemen. And if you're just a speculator, a gambler, you are going to get absolutely obliterated. And most people who have been speculating and gambling in these Ponzi schemes have already learned that lesson. People holding real things, you're still holding real things, and they're still holding real value. Keep doing what you're doing. Stay on track. Stay extremely close to God, ladies and gentlemen. Stay extremely close to God. God bless. Look forward to speaking with all of you very, very soon.